Okay, so you know how this works. I'm Shani Jones, and this is kinky, which stands for the new kinky you. It is Wednesday, which means we are going live on Instagram. I promise you I am late. So we're going to start this, and hopefully we have no technical issues, and we'll see how it goes. Let's see. I'm Shani Jones, and this is kinky, which stands for Know the New Kinky You. I am here tonight to talk to you about some everyday shit, and I promise you that I'm talking like this on purpose because, you know, when I do this, I try to stay very refined, very professional, but sometimes shit happens, and we need to have a very real conversation about how life impacts us and how life impacts our ability to be sexual. And I don't think a lot of us get that sex is that important for us, but it really and truly is. It is one of those things that, although our lives are impacted by it, by the fact that it requires sex for us to procreate, sex is not only intended for that. And so if you've seen some recent posts, you've seen how we've talked about how sex can be impacted positively and negatively by external influences in our lives. So, for instance, we talked about how smoking, and this was specifically talking about cigarette smoking versus marijuana smoking, can have a negative impact on our sex lives. We also talked about how creating levels of intimacy and having that connection with a person close to us, our deepest partners, have positive influences on our sex lives. There is this one thing that I wanted to talk to you about tonight because it's a thing that a lot of us go through, where we tend to either go through it in silence, or we don't necessarily deal with it the right way, right? So, stress. We have everyday shit that we go through. We have financial issues. We have family issues, work issues. We have relationship issues, all things that contribute to our stress in life. And you know what? Although we tend to contribute stress as a mental thing, right? It's in our heads. It's things that bother us. It's things that make us feel in a fucked up way. Although that's true, stress can manifest itself in physical ways that can diminish our ability to physically have and also enjoy sex. But it's like that whole conversation about what came first, the chicken or the egg type of thing, because although stress can diminish our capacity and our wanting for sex, it can also enhance our enjoyment and reduce the stress that we're having. So here's what we're talking about. You go to work, somebody's getting on your nerves, and something needs to be done, and it needs to be done right now. That causes stress on you. You have bills that need to be paid, so you go to work to pay the bills and make sure that that stress that you have is reduced. Stress is anything and everything that alters your ability to properly function in life. It is something that is a mental and a physical and an emotional block that causes us to have a negative response to it. Now, what happens when it comes to sex and our sexuality is that most of the time we're really fucking just stressed out. You know, you don't feel very sexy. You don't feel like you are in a place where you want to be touched or enjoy a pleasurable moment because you got so much other stuff in your head. When you're stressed out, it affects your hormones. There is cortisol that is released in your brain that impairs your ability to actually impacts your libido, where you just don't want to have sex. And you would think that of all the things in the world that could help you with your stress, it's having a great sexual session, and it is. But there's this counterbalance, this counter interaction that happens that you have to be mindful of, that you have to be cognizant of, that says you have to be the owner of how you're going to live your best sexual life. So going back to stress, finances, relationship issues, kids, all kinds of stuff, the day-to-day stuff that impacts you, right? You want to own it. You want to say, I'm strong enough, I can deal with it, it'll pass. Sometimes that's the case. But when you get to a chronic stress issue, a chronic stress situation, you really want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Self-care is not just masturbation, and it is masturbation. I promise you it is. So if you're in a position where you are not with a sexual partner, or even if you're with a sexual partner and the sex is not happening at the frequency or the level that you are wanting it to, masturbation is great. But it's that physical and emotional intimacy that you have with a partner that kind of triggers these stress relievers that can happen even when you believe that the stress is being caused or being influenced by your partner. There are a lot of relationships that come into fruition and you have these predetermined notions about how it's supposed to work, and you have these conditions that you put on people, and you realize that after a while, you know what, this shit isn't really working the way that I thought it would. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing that you have to put into a realistic and practical way of understanding how your life works. Because again, your life and your relationship and your sex is not the same as everybody else's. You cannot think like that. You can't believe that. What you have to do is understand that your situation is specific to you. It's specific to you, and you have to work on it in a way that is designed to work within the confines and the constructs of your relationship, of your sexual situation. So I'll give you an example, and this is kind of off topic, but not really. So I have a birthday coming up in a month, and I'll be 41, and I'm like, damn, it's 41. I'm like, it happened so fast, I don't know where it went. But I have a friend, a male friend that is almost 50, and he's having the best sex of his life. And you know why? It's because he's accepted that he is a sexual being, and he doesn't let necessarily outside influences impacts who he is as a sexual being. So even if he has shit going on at work, or if he has things going on at home, you know, he doesn't let those things influence who he is as a sexual being. And you know, I applaud him in some ways. Other ways, I admonish him to his face. But we'll talk about that in a separate. Sex is something that is both a healer and something that can fall to the wayside if you let it. So I want you guys to realize that we all have shit going on. I have stuff going on at work, at home, for my daughter, for my family, for my friends. I absorb a lot of stuff, right? And I don't mind it necessarily. But at the same time, when I realize that it becomes too much, I have to figure out a way to deal with it. And as a certified sex coach, I don't want my sex life to be impacted or impaired by the stuff that goes on in my life, but it happens. It happens to me, it happens to you, it happens to all of us, and we have to be in a position where we are cognizant of it. We are mindful of the fact that shit happens, and every sexual encounter will not necessarily be the best, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we are putting ourselves in a position where we are at least working towards having the most enjoyable, the most pleasurable, the most gratifying sex that you can have, because we live one life. Unless you believe in reincarnation, and then you can come back and live a better sex life. However, let's talk about the life that we're living in now, right? We need to understand that things happen in life. Stresses happen in life. But if we let stress get out of control, if we don't manage it properly, then it will affect us not only mentally, but it will affect us emotionally, and it will affect us physically. So I want you to keep those things in mind. That stress is not just some, oh shit, I had a bad day. No, if you have one bad day, and 2 bad days, and 3 bad days, the shit accumulates, and you will not be able to enjoy the benefits of life that you are entitled to. And I say this because, sex is not meant just for procreation. It's not. If that was the case, we would only have sex when we ovulate, and that would be the case, and we would be popping out babies all the time. If I had a baby for every time I had sex, I would have way many babies. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the fact that when you are happy, when you are doing everything you can to live a healthy, productive, stress-free life, that you are doing your best for yourself, and keeping your sex life healthy and happy is a part of that. It really and truly is. So if you feel stressed, if you feel that things are becoming overwhelming, then what you can do is a few things. There are breathing techniques that you can do. There are exercises. You can exercise and release endorphins and have that happen to make you relieve some type of stress. If there are meditation and yoga and all kinds of things that you can do to reduce stress. But understand that when you are under stress, it reduces your wantingness to have sex. But sex is also a stress reliever. When you have a great sex session, when you are penetrated or penetrating, and you have, especially if you're able to orgasm and release these endorphins from your body that create these brain sensations, all of the stress that you had can go away. So it really is a double-edged sword. Now I want you to think of it that way. if you feel stressed, there will be, or I'm not going to say definite, but there can be the feeling of wanting not to be intimate, the wanting not to have sex. There can be that. But if you're stressed and you got a bunch of shit going on in your life and you want to do something about it, especially if you're in a committed relationship, please feel free to be intimate. Build that closeness with your partner. It will help you. It will help make you more cognizant of who you are, what you are, and take away some of the dumb shit that's happening in your life. There are things that we can control. There are things that we can't control. And we have to be mindful of it. It's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be something that can happen overnight. But when we stay present and we work towards a greater goal of trying to be better people and be better partners, be better communicators, even when we're going through stuff. Because again, everybody goes through stuff. Don't ever think you're the only one. Everybody goes through stuff. Everybody has their own personal story, their own personal drama that happens with them. And the sooner you realize that you are not the only one, but you are one that can do something about your situation, the better off you will be. So, for everyone that has joined, I appreciate you. I know that I was a little late, and I apologize for that. I preface this by saying that every week I say the stories on Instagram, which is where we're live, only last for 24 hours. So if you didn't get a chance to view the whole video, you can always go and also see exclusive videos that don't get posted to Instagram on my YouTube channel, which is DOYOUKNKY, Do You KNKY. KNKY stands for Know the New Kinky You. Please visit the website, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. There's different content posted on different areas so that I make sure that I reach a wider audience. And again, I appreciate all of you that have tuned in. The repost will have some extra content because I don't edit these, so I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and I will see you again next week. Don't stress out, and don't let stress impact your sex life.